Welcome back to another Gaming Memories video. Here we are taking a look at a kart racing game called Michael Schumacher's Racing World Kart 2002 that was released in Europe around that time, and it's actually endorsed by Michael Schumacher himself. And this was a later game released in the later half of the PlayStation's life cycle. To be honest now, when I seen this now, I didn't even really know that this game actually existed. I only actually found it recently when I was searching through trying to find games to actually play. So I says I would actually give it a go. Now it's your typical type of kart racing game. There are a couple of others on the PlayStation, and it's kind of got a similar style to like most racing games, like where you're racing on different like type of tracks and different types of environments. But in this case, the tracks are a lot smaller because you're driving like a smaller type of kart. The one thing I will find with these games, and this game is really no different, the learning curve is actually very steep. An absolute beginner to these games will not find this easy to play at all. These kart games have always been, I remember playing even on modern consoles, even on other consoles like the Sega Saturn, say PlayStation, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, kart racing games seem to be always extremely difficult to literally master because the learning curve is so difficult for a beginner to pick up. And on top of it all is the computer AI within the game itself is just ridiculous. There's no way of really being able to change down the difficulty, and even if you can, it's almost impossible a lot of times to actually win a race. No matter how good you actually drive the kart, it's still very, very hard to win a race, because you may be able to get past most of the pack, but generally whoever's in first place always gets that far ahead within the first 10 to 15 seconds that you will never catch them for the rest of the race. And even if you do manage to keep up with them, the second you make a single mistake or you even hit a blade of grass and you go off the track at all, the race is done. You're always going to be in second place. And the downside with this game is extremely difficult to master, because the problem with this here is when you're playing through the championship, in order to unlock other difficulties and other championships, you need to win every single race. And I've played this for a little bit, and as I've played through, it's impossible. It's virtually impossible to actually win a race, because even if you do manage to get ahead of first place, they're always sticking at you. They use I use like a rubber banding technique, and a lot of all these kart games all use them. Every single one of them that I've ever played all actually use them. So no matter how far you get ahead of whatever opponent you have in front, especially within first place, you can only ever maintain about a half a second or a second ahead of them at all times, and you can never ever really build up much of a lead against them. And they always will catch up, and they'll actually just zip around you on the corner. Even when you think you have the inner line, they just literally zip past you and you cannot catch them. Once they get ahead of you, you're done for. And this game is no different. Now, aside from that niggle, it's actually not a bad game to play. You can enjoy it to some degree, but just be expected that it's going to be very, very difficult to win a race. That's all I'm going to say. But graphically, the game is actually quite decent, especially for a game that was released later on in the PlayStation's life cycle. And the tracks are actually quite good. I will admit the collision detection has a lot of questions around it, because there's certain points now, say when you hit barriers, you're perfectly fine. It does slow down the kart a little bit, but there's certain areas where you do hit the track or you hit a certain point and it's just non-existent. The kart literally just stops dead in its tracks, and then you end up having to respawn. So that can take a lot out of your time, especially if you're trying to build up any sort of a lead or even trying to catch up with the pack. So it can definitely hinder your progress. So the championships are fairly small. There's only like a handful of races in each, but again, like I said, you need to be able to win every single race, which I haven't been able to do at all. And I find with games like this here, as much as I do love racing games, this type of technique, when they're using that there, when they make it extremely difficult, I find does be very, very repetitive, and it gets repetitive very, very quickly, to a point that you nearly want to not want to play the game again, because there's virtually very slim chance of winning. By all means, you want the game to have a challenge, but when something like this is presented to you where it's nigh on impossible to win a race, it's very easy just to say, no, I couldn't be bothered playing this, and it drives a lot of people away. I don't understand why developers have to make certain games like this here as difficult as they do. but they obviously do it for whatever reasons. Clearly they like the kart games and they like a challenge, but I think sometimes they forget about the actual, just the casual game, or someone that comes in and that wants to have a bit of competitive edge, but at the same time isn't going to take it too seriously and wants to be able to have a chance at winning. But there's virtually very little, if next to no chance here. Now you can select different karts and you can select different tracks. There is variations of time trials, so you can actually go in and practice some of the track layouts. But again, it is difficult. It's a difficult game to master, because the handling physics in the game, they are quite fiddly and quite a lot very jerky. And even when you're going around the corners at a mid to low speed, there is an awful chance of the kart actually sliding out on you, and that completely stops nearly the kart dead. So then the other pack just literally just pass out then. So it can be very difficult. As you can see here, I have managed to actually get past and into first place, but believe me, that doesn't last long, because as soon as you go around the corner, as you can see here, he just zips around the corner, just there's no slowing down. See, they get the advantage straight away, so it just leaves you kind of just for six. And the second you mess up where you slow down, or like I said, if you slide out, you see the distance now that he's gaining, and he will eventually gain a lot further now very quickly. As you can see there now, just one little slip up and you're done for. The race is over pretty much. So second place is about as good as you'll actually get. There's zero room for error in it at all, which is disappointing, because a lot of these games, and I do love the PlayStation games, and they are all worth having a go, but I will admit, even games like this here do tend to get on your nerves sometimes, because you wonder, why are they so difficult? Why did they have to be like that? But again, it is what it is. If you do feel like playing these type of games and you do enjoy them, they'd be better for multiplayer purposes. If you enjoy playing them multiplayer, which you can do in this, then by all means have at it. But if you're looking for a single player campaign, especially when you want to be a casual gamer, this here game probably wouldn't be the game for you, because it will actually drive you crazy. Because like I said, it is very fiddly, and there is a few difficult moments in it when you get stuck against the surroundings and it completely stops you dead, and then it's very hard to win a race as well. I know it may seem like I'm going on in a rant here with this, and I usually don't with these type of games, but I just find little things like that do be very annoying, because you want to be able to enjoy a game when you're playing it. You don't want it to be a negative experience. Now, the game is decent, like, apart from the niggles, it does play okay. You can definitely get into it. Like, the graphics are actually quite good, and the tracks, apart from the cameras and stuff like that, can be okay, but it is what you make of it really at the end of the day. So it's totally up to yourself how you actually want to see or play these type of games. But it would be better to play it if you're playing as a multiplayer. You would get more fun out of it that way. So that's it for this video of Michael Schumacher's Racing World Kart 2002. What are your thoughts of it? Did you find it equally as frustrating as I did playing it? If you have done, make sure to share your thoughts down in the comments below. So if you have liked this video, make sure to leave a like, also subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon to be updated whenever I release future content, and also feel free to share the video. And until next time, make sure to keep playing those classic games and enjoying them, and make sure to keep those gaming memories alive.